What's up, team? I'm your host, Brian Emmerich. This is PubGPS, Financial Wisdom on Tap. This is another episode of The Basics, and today we're talking about estate planning. Now, I am not an attorney. I'm just smarter than them. Just kidding. I'm not an attorney, so this is not legal advice. This is educational information. Let's dive into it with the 4 things that you need to build a solid estate plan. Number 1 on the list is a will, which most people are not super antsy and itching to be like, oh, I got some free time on Thursday, let me go get a will. But it is important to have it done correctly. And if that's the case, you typically don't need to update it for a long period of time. A small investment of time and money today will get you a good will that will last you long enough that you'll be happy with. So the number 1 item is having a will. Number 2 is a document that's called your power of attorney document. So I'm going to put POA, your power of attorney document. And then number 3 is your healthcare proxy document. Now you're thinking, I said 4 things. So the 4th thing that you want to be aware of is having the right beneficiary designations in place. So the will takes care of all of the things that you want to leave to other people and you're not around to do so. But so does your beneficiary designation. If you have a 401k plan at work, you need to list a beneficiary on that plan. The will and the beneficiary designation are 2 totally separate items. Your will could say, I would like to leave everything to my children, and your beneficiary says, I want to leave everything to Brian. And guess what? That beneficiary designation is going to supersede what your will says. So when it comes to estate planning and who needs to inherit the things that are important and valuable to you, it's one important piece to have the will done, but second, it's important to make sure that your beneficiary designations are up to date and reflected in there. Moving on to our second, our power of attorney document. This person has a job to do while you're alive. When you have a will, you name an executor. They only have a job when someone passes away. Your power of attorney has a job while you're living and not while you're deceased. And the power of attorney's job is to act as if they were you in your best interest. So say for instance, you get in a car accident and you're laid up in a hospital bed, someone needs to pay your bills, maybe you need to get money out of the bank. That person could walk in with that document and say, I'm acting on behalf of Brian Emmerich and I would like to take $2,000 out of the bank. This is an incredibly powerful document. It also can be abused. So it's important when you're deciding who's going to be your power of attorney that you have an embedded level of trust in that person that can't be broken. Our third and or 4th, depending upon your counting, the healthcare proxy. This is naming someone having to do with your medical wishes, and oftentimes there's a template or boilerplate form that you have on file with your doctor's office. I would recommend that if you're in certain states within the United States, that you look into having a more detailed document that might name or list more of the things that you would like to have happen under different circumstances than just that very basic one that is on file in your doctor's office. Now, I want to back up to the will here because for young parents, there's one part that I think is especially important, is that you are going to name your recommendation for guardianship of your young children. Now you can scribble this on a napkin before you hop on a plane, but it's a lot more solid for the court to see that you had taken the time to put in the will who you're choosing to take care of the children, their well-being if anything happened to them. The next part is to name a trustee for the money that your kids could potentially get. The guardian is responsible for saying you need to do your homework. The trustee is responsible for saying, you know what, you can buy a Honda, but you can't buy a Porsche. You're only 17 years old. So this could be the same person or different, but it's important that you have these in place so that everything goes smoothly for the loved ones or places that are inheriting your money. Now, the trustee is responsible for the money, and the money will end up in this trust bucket. The will say, if my child inherits this money, we set up a trust for them. And in that bucket is going to be all of these assets. And the trustee is responsible for making sure that they come out and get put to the best use. Now, here's why this was so important, and my wife Casey and I had to do a lot of soul searching about this, was not even the amount of money today, but what if something happened to us today when the kids are so young? So for example, the rule of 72 says that if you divide 72 by the expected rate of return that your investments are going to get, that's how fast your money will double. So if I think I can earn 9% on my money, I divide that in and say, great, I now know that my money is going to double in size every 8 years. So if I have a son that's 4 years old, when he turns 20, all right, that $1 million that I left would have doubled twice. 1 million would go to 2 million, would go to $4 million. So when I think about, well, it's no big deal if he gets $1 million, that's not the case. By the time he's 20 years old, he would have $4 million waiting for him. What is he going to do with $4 million? If I had $4 million when I was 20, I'd likely be in a ditch right now. So the trust that you establish in your will can say that this is how the money is divvied up. The trustee can help make sure that they have a house and a home and pay for education. But at 20 years old, they don't get $4 million. You may say something like, at 25, they can get 200K. And at 30, they can get some money. And at 35, hopefully they're grown and they can just have the rest of the money and hope that they make the right decisions with it. So we have, in recap, our will and beneficiary need to talk to each other. If you think you need a trust for young children or your purposes behind your estate, you will set that up likely in your will. Or today, but that's a more complicated subject. The will assign guardianship for young children, a trustee to take care of the money, and the trust will say how it's divvied up. Your power of attorney will make sure if something happens to you while you're alive, they can act on your behalf, and the healthcare proxy will help with the medical directives. This is something we could dive so much deeper into, but the key is to have the documents in place and also to know where they are. Your healthcare proxy is no good to anyone if it's locked away in a safe in your basement and you're at the hospital and you need it. So have the documents done, keep them accessible, and thanks for joining us today.